It's episode 57 of Beyond the Blast Doors. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. We had a program change, and we're going live a little afternoon here, Central Time. We, technical issues. We're trying to do a 3-camera setup, and it just turns out that I misplaced the remote. So we're going to single cam. I'm taking full responsibility of my mistakes. The important thing is we're in this moment now having a Star Wars conversation. I'm your host, David. David Jesse is with us. And, guys, we're celebrating kind of an accomplishment this week on the show. We wanted to have all the production out because we just smashed 800 subscribers on the channel because of your support, and it's really exciting.
David, I'm really impressed. I didn't know you could count to 800.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's support today.
We're going to need a larger cargo hold for all these bounties.
Really excited about the success. It seems over the last couple of months, we've had some really great growth, which is really fun because we're just having more new faces show up, being a part of that Star Wars conversation. And so we want to let you know that we're doing a giveaway that we're going to do to commemorate 800 subscribers. You're going to be getting an Anakin Starfighter Lego set and 5 Star Wars comics from my personal collection. They're pretty great books, but I want to have some suspense in all this, so I won't show you the comics until next week. But all you have to do is after the live stream ends, come back to episode 57, and in the comment section, let us know what you think about the episode. If you had any strong opinions about anything we talk about, include that. But you have to include somewhere in your comment, size matters not. It's going to tie back into the conversation towards the end of the show today. But size matters not. It has to be somewhere in your comment. That way, we're like, all right, boom, you're entered. Also, if you're a Patreon supporter of the show, you get an additional entry into our contest. So if you want to, you can get access to some exclusive content over on patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors. As low as $2 a month gives you some access to some pretty cool things we do. We're adding more to that list, but that's just another way you can throw your name in. Something to keep in mind, if you don't want to do it for 800, we're doing a massive giveaway for 1,000, and we're doing that in correlation with our live show on May the 4th, Saturday, at the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. So keep that in mind. But I digress. Size matter or not, you could also say that about the 3 men at this room. Let's just kind of go ahead and get into it. Something that we're trying to do is have an appreciation for history. We need to know what comes before us in the Star Wars conversation. And so real quick, David, if you could let us know, on this day in Star Wars history, what's going on?
Yeah, 1970, Warwick Davis, who played my favorite Wicket Ewok, he was born, so happy birthday to him.
99 was a pretty good year too, right, Jesse?
It was. You had Mara Jade by the Emperor's Hand. 6 is published. And then in 2004, we got Timothy Zahn's Survivor's Quest and Fool's Bargain book.
Survivor's Quest was a fun one. They call it a novella. But it was a fun one because it had Thrawn in there.
That's a short book.
Yeah, a short book, yes. One that would be best
size
for us.
matters not.
Size matters not. 2016, you might have read this comic. It's a modern book, Obi-Wan and Anakin. This was issue number 2. Stellar short story by Charles Soule. Of course, we worship at the altar of Charles Soule on this show. So that was a fun read. Definitely check that out.
And if you're a big fan of the Rebels TV show, the episode Legends of Laseret aired on Disney XD.
Sounds good. And so on this day, you know what? Actually, what did you say? Lasat, right?
Lasat? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's
Lasat?
Yeah. It's
You can tell I paid attention to episode titles pretty well, didn't
you? Had a
Jeff?
rush to catch up to everybody else. You're only a year and a half
You guys
behind.
had like 4 years to watch the show. I had
I
like
guess
a long weekend.
You
Yeah.
have to binge watch it again.
I get a second time?
Yeah.
It's all good.
I
Hey,
need to get caught up on the current one first.
Resistance. We got to binge watch that.
Yeah.
We're already in the second half of season 1.
Great.
We got season 2 next year. I'm working up a sweat just thinking about it. Before we go on to Real Talk, I want to shout out everybody in the live chat right now. We got Ms. P in the live chat. Comic Book Gallery says hello. Comic Zombie, sup up Blast Doors. We got the Great Legend Show. He goes, David and James? It's David, and Jesse. He's just
Jesse.
messing with you. He likes to call you the third stormtrooper out of affection.
Hey, now.
That's-
I take insult to that. I hit my targets.
I like that. Okay, fine. You can be the bounty hunter. Everyone saying hi to each other in the chat. Love that. Let's get that live chat. Let's keep it hot and excited all hour long. But now is the time. Real talk. If it's on the screen, this is where we talk about it. Whether it's on the theater screen, your TV screen, your home phone, your mobile phone. That's where we're talking about it.
I really like our first topic because we had some goofs this morning, and so we get to talk about some goofs in the Star Wars franchise.
It's kind of ironic, right? We
Yeah.
had some tech issues, and now we're talking about some editing woes, you could say. Actually, I don't think it's woes. I think the whole point of this is
just to make fun of George Lucas, right?
in a way. So Todd Vazeri is the visual effects artist. He's a visual effects artist and supervisor at ILM. And he's worked on a lot of Star Wars movies. He's worked on Star Trek. He's worked on Mission Impossible. And he goes, this tweet that he shared this week, he goes, wait, That was always there? No way. And it's a scene from A New Hope, the 77th film. And what it is when they're trying to blast out of Mos Eisley. And there's an edit that was kept that has a little bit of a blooper. And so we have that clip. And let's go ahead and play it right now. Let's see if we can catch it at home. All right, so we're in the cockpit, right? And we're going to go to... we're going to blast out of Mos Eisley here. Oh, that's the first one.
It's on loop.
Oh, that's on loop. Okay,
There's
so
definitely somebody walking in the background.
Yeah, there's someone walking in the background. I guess it wasn't queued up, but we had like the full scene to show you. Maybe the slide before that, Jordan. There we go. So here's the full scene. Yeah, we're getting on the Millennium Falcon. We're gonna take off. Probably getting close to copyright infringement. And then we blast out of here. And then what was that? All right, now let's go to the next video. Oh, that's right. There's a guy in the back hallway there, and some people think that this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it looks like it's a staffer. We're not quite sure, David.
Maybe it's like a human version of a ghost of L337.
Oh my gosh, that'd be funny. We'll bring us back on camera now, and I just thought that was an interesting conversation to start this week because with an edit like that, some people would say, well, that's a blooper, that's a mistake, that's a flaw. But the focus, of course, is on Solo, the character. And so a lot of people don't mention, like, I had never noticed that before watching the movie.
And you've watched it like a good 150 times.
I probably watched A New Hope over 1,000 times in my lifetime.
My goodness.
Like, I mean, I'm religiously.
I didn't
many
know
hours
this was
is
a
that?
thing because, like, I've always noticed that, but I always just thought it was like maybe Luke or Obi-Wan just wandering around the Falcon or something.
If you've watched that movie 1,000 times, that's 83 days of your life that you spent watching that movie.
There's a good chance, yeah. It's probably why I know every line of that movie. Now, Pablo Hidalgo has actually got on Twitter and responded back to Todd, and he says that it is Alec Guinness, but he hasn't done a direct comparison. Like it's the tail end of him leaving the cockpit. They used whatever footage they could making the original movie. So I just think it's a really cool insight, and it's like how editors... Because like George Lucas was notorious for like directing in the edit room, like he kind of not so micromanaged, but he was there every step of the way. And what is priority? Okay, the focus is on Han Solo showing anxiety, trying to get out of the spaceport. Don't worry about what's going on in the back, and it just it's a pacing thing, and I just think it's funny. It doesn't ruin my experience at all. I just thought it was kind of a fun, not Easter egg that you can find in there. But Pablo actually, what were you going to say, David?
Of all the things that Lucas changed in the remastered versions, it's surprising that some of these things stayed in there.
Dude, that's an excellent point. Everybody, like when this started going on Twitter, everyone's asking that same question. It's like you added like rat creatures as they cruise into Mos Eisley, but you're not going to take away the guy wrapped in green. We're not sure. Pablo Hidalgo actually had an example of his own, kind of like a spoof that you see in the movies. Remember the Sandcrawler sequence where they pull up to the Skywalker residence, the homestead, the Lars homestead?
Yep.
And there's all these Ewoks. Not Ewoks.
Yeah,
I did it.
Jawas.
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 I got thinking of Warwick Davis again.
I know.
And he points out, and I never noticed this, there's a man on his knees as a Jawa. Like, there's his full arm right there on the right side of your screen. You can see, like, his hand is right there. And you never notice that when the video is at full speed when you're just watching the movie. But
who really takes the time to go slide by slide on these things?
Trolls, man. Trolls. They're the plague.
That was the weird Jawa who ate his Wheaties every day or something, like gross spurt.
I thought it was interesting. If you know, are there any other kind of, like, goofs in the Star Wars that we know?
Yeah, I can actually think of two.
Okay, real quick.
They
What are
may
they?
have fixed Empire, the one in Empire, but it's the carbon freezing scene. There's a scene where Han's jacket appears and disappears. I think they did fix it in the Blu-ray release.
Yeah, I remember that being a thing. Yeah.
The other one, and I don't recall if they fixed it or not, is a speeder bike chase in Return of the Jedi. Luke's gloved hand switches hands throughout the chase scene.
No way. I did not notice that.
The very first shot of the Millennium Falcon that we ever see on screen does not have a satellite dish.
Get out. I did not know this.
I mean, normally we see things breaking off the ship, but somehow Han Solo decided to add a satellite dish.
Spruced it up.
Yeah.
Dude, that is crazy. That is awesome. If you know about any of these kind of like weird edits or continuity errors, let us know in the live chat. If you're watching on the Rewind, let us know in the comments down below.
And no cheating. You can't go to IMDb and look at the goof section. No cheating. You got to spot it yourself.
I think this is so cool just to kind of go back and just see what would ultimately find out why these edits were there. Just really, really fascinating. Let's go to the next topic of Real Talk. Cruising right along here. Are we going to see the last of C3PO in Episode 9? Anthony Daniels has wrapped his filming on set of Episode 9, and he took to Twitter this week, noting that it was nothing but a bittersweet experience to wrap up his role for the sequel trilogy. He said, quote, "Today was 3PO's last on Episode 9. He's sad, so am I. But we're so proud to have worked with such a lovely, talented cast and crew, led by JJ and Kathy. I'll miss everyone, but I'm glad to know that we've been making something exceptional together to share with the waiting world." Wow. It's something that I didn't think about when we were putting these show notes together, because aside from Solo, we've had C3PO in every movie. And actually, Anthony Daniels did have a role. He was I can't remember what he was in Solo, but he had like a background character role in Solo. So he's been here the whole ride. And yeah, whether they disintegrate C3PO in this movie or not, it could very well be the last live action performance we get with him.
I hope they blast him away.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, why? Do you think that would be a little over the top? Because, do you blast up C-3PO and R2-D2?
This movie's got to be heartbreaking.
Okay.
It's going to have to be. We have so many characters that we've developed over the last 40 years, and in continuity, it's closer to 85, 90 years. Mm-hmm. And there's just no way they can keep all these characters going. Your laptop is how old? Like a year and a half?
Yeah.
And technically, it's already outdated. C-3PO is 85 years old at this point.
I know, but he can speak 7 million forms of communication?
6 million?
6 million?
6 million, yeah.
That's pretty... that's still relevant. My laptop, sure. It's performing right now like it should get thrown out the window, but I feel like C-3PO still has some use in this galaxy. I'm afraid you're going to lose him, R2, the Falcon, but Jesse, when you think about the idea that C-3PO is gone, and you think that this is Anthony Daniels' possible last performance as the character, what are you hoping for the character in the movie? Because throughout the entire Star Wars saga, we've seen this story unfold through the eyes of the droids. They're kind of thrust right into the middle of this adventure, going back to 77.
Wow. It's crazy to think about when you just think of just episode 1 through everything we have right now.
Well, yeah, you just think of that initial scene in A New Hope.
Especially A New Hope. I haven't really thought about it so much in relation to Force Awakens or Last Jedi, because I really feel like neither one of those movies so much really focused on his character.
Right. But for episode 9, are you hoping that it's going to be a larger role? Because he was not really relevant in Force Awakens. The Last Jedi, he was kind of just oh my, he was just kind of in the way in the scenes that he was in.
I think we're just probably going to get about the same.
Yeah,
honestly, because that's just how the droids have always been in my mind. They're kind of that comic relief. They're kind of a side character. So I don't really see them being secret mission or something like they did in the Clone Wars or something.
Mm-hmm. I kind of think they might be tied into the last scene of the movie, and there's always so much. There's a lot of speculation about what kind of ending will be fitting for this episode 9. I wonder if it's a thing where a great battle is won, and then the fleet is just kind of going to go jump to light speed. And you end with a scene kind of like the end of Empire, where you're inside the ship and you're looking out at the fleet, and you have R2 and C3PO, and so you just see from behind C3PO put his head on R2, and they blast away. And I think that would be thrilling.
Great ending.
I think that would be. I'm getting chills right now on my thighs thinking about that. No, I am, because I
on
think
your
that
thighs. You have to specify that's where you're getting your.
That would
your
be
thrills.
thrilling. A great ending. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about C-3PO's role at the end of Episode 9? In Episode 9, how do you think he might tie into the end scene like I threw out there? I want to know. Anthony Daniels wasn't, by the way, the only actor that wrapped up his shooting. We also had, oh my goodness, Brian Herring, who is the puppeteer for BB-8. He also wrapped up shooting, which is interesting because now we know that BB-8 is done with its work. Buddy, I don't know. I guess it's a he. But that's pretty cool. He sent out a tweet on Friday just talking about how cool it was and how appreciative he was for the 5-year run. So, people are wrapping. We believe that by the end of February is when principal production will be complete. They'll go into the editing room. There's a chance for reshoots. I'm sure people are going to jump all over that when reshoots start to get mentioned. But productions of this scale today, they planned and intend to go back for reshoots. So kind of interesting to see how this will all unfold. Next topic. It's Real Talk. We're cruising right along. I want to say thanks to everybody hanging out with us in the live chat, or if you're coming back around on the rewind. Just so glad that you're with us. The last topic here for Real Talk, and we'll keep this really tight, it's just letting you know tonight's episode for Star Wars Resistance, it's called The First Order Occupation. And there's a new clip. There's images you can find out there on StarWars.com. And what we know is after Torah, maybe this is spoilers if you haven't been keeping up with it, but Torah is kidnapped. And there's a rescue by Major Von Rig. The First Order sends a contingent of stormtroopers to Colossus in order to hunt down the pirate spy. So if you're watching the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't watch the show, you don't know what I'm talking about. And then you should probably get involved and start watching the show. These guys are going to binge watch. I think the plan could be we could easily do quick reviews of the episodes. They're 20 minutes long. We wouldn't have to talk in depth. Or we could just do like a season 1 review. That probably would be more feasible. If you would prefer episode by episode or just one big one, you let us know in the comments down below. But Star Wars Resistance checking out. We're going to finally get some First Order action, I think, in the show. And remember, that mid-season trailer, I did a review of it. The best part in my mind was seeing Hux' speech from Colossus, seeing these other characters that aren't in the main events of Star Wars, witnessing this major event happening. And so what does the destruction of Hosnian Prime look like from Colossus? Really excited to find that out. It's going to be really good. And with that, did you have anything to say, David, before I go on?
No, I was going to go back to the live chat for a moment.
Oh, okay.
Some talk about C3PO going on right now.
What are
People
they
are going to
saying?
miss him. They feel he's got useful connections.
Okay.
Emotionally, of course.
All right.
Comic Book Gallery. Oh, how flattering. Learned so much from this channel. Thank you.
Oh, gosh.
I learned a lot, too.
Good guy. Good people over there.
Shout out to Great Legend Show.
Hey, Silos
Comic
is
Zombie.
Silos 189 is in the live chat. That's pretty cool.
Yep, he popped in a couple minutes ago. Discovery Bay still hanging out with us.
So it looks like everyone's having a good time. That's awesome. Well, with that in mind, let's go ahead and we're going to step away for 20 seconds because I got to get water because my mouth is getting dry. We're going to go away. 20 seconds. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond the Blast Doors, episode 57. We're live.
All wings report in. Brand new Beyond the Blast Door collector pins are now in stock. Help spread the word about the Beyond the Blast Door Star Wars conversation by picking up a brand new exclusive show pin. Pins are only $8. Order and pay online at beyondtheblastdoors.com. Movies, TV, comics, toys, cosplay. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.
Pages, Pixels, Pieces on Beyond the Blast Door. This segment brought to you by the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. Proud to have our local comic book shop as our official sponsor. Comics, collectibles, toys, Magic the Gathering, and board games. The Fantasy Shop in St. Louis. Proudly serving St. Louis in this podcast since 1981. I'm just kidding. The show's only been around for about a year and a half. All right, so what we're talking about. We always talk about comics. We talk about books. We talk about video games. There's a lot that we try and cram into this segment. Comic book talk, we're going to do a little differently on the show now. Because we're all in different places, and in case you hadn't heard, Beyond the Blast Doors is the first show on our channel, but we also now have a second show on the channel, Beyond the Panel, okay? Keeping kind of with the theme, right? So that is every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central. You see the image there on your screen. That is the thumbnail for the most recent episode. Go ahead and check that out for deep dives into the comic books. But what we want to do is we kind of want to summarize the comics in this segment. So we might not hit every comic that came out this week. If you want that experience, you go on Beyond the Panel. But right here, we're just going to do like the big overarching theme. And so, David, I see you looking at my eyes. We don't have Darth Vader to talk about this week.
I know, and it hurts my feelings.
So is there an event that happened in comics this week that you feel compelled to mention? Well, judging by that reaction.
Overly compelled? No, not particularly. I mean, I still go back and read my Darth Vader comics from Charles Soule because they're just so good.
They are so good. I will tell you this, something that I think is worth you checking out the Star Wars comics for this past week. Dr. Afro 28 had a really great dialogue about loyalty and sentiment. And we know that Dr. Afro has been kind of a character kind of on her own. She's an archaeologist. She's always running from Vader, trying to stay alive. She fell in love with this woman we believed was dead, but she might still be alive. We're still looking for her in the comics, okay? And so the situation is Afra has a bomb in her, and she's placed in like on this planet, and she's trapped, and
she can't get too far away from 000.
Right, because if they get too far apart, boom, bomb goes off. And our favorite thugs from the cantina on Mos Eisley are organizing this. Dr. Ezran or whatever, and Punk Dongo or whatever his name is, the Walrus Face guy, right? So that more people know him as Walrus Face guy than his actual name. And so there's this like dilemma and they're talking about loyalty. We find out that Afra actually built 000. We're learning that she had conflict about changing his program because she thought that would be wrong. But it's this really cool dive into loyalty, and I thought there was a moral lesson that I wasn't expecting from this character, and I feel like I should, because I think Spurrier does a great job writing this comic book. So definitely check that book out. Also, that cover that we showed you a couple of minutes ago is stellar. So it's gorgeous. There's also a really nice variant for it. So go ahead and check that out. Comics coming out next week, though, David. I think we're pretty excited about this one. If I believe we have an Age of Republic.
We're still in Republic.
And that's the Anakin?
Yep, Anakin. And Jodie Houser's just done a phenomenal job on all of these. And Anakin's never been my favorite character because I think he's kind of whiny.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to seeing if I can understand him better through this one-shot comic. So looking forward to that. And then we'll get Star Wars 61, part of the main line. Nothing too exciting to me, but I want to see Anakin.
Well, I think the 61's interesting because we're going to find out if they actually get away from Scar Squadron on Hubin. And then, Jesse, I think you're going to really like the Anakin Skywalker single shot because
I've been enjoying the Age of Republic ones a lot.
This is like right in the middle of the Clone Wars. It starts off with a space battle. There was actually a preview released a couple days ago. Really cool story so far. He's with a contingent of ARC 170s. We all love that ship, right? So really cool there. And then we get Dooku the week after. And I believe we have the thumbnail right now of all the different covers. Look at these covers because I'm in love. So what you have is, on the left, you have the puzzle piece cover variant. So there's like, I don't know, 20 or 30 of these covers that are, you can put them all together and they form one big collage.
Really?
You also have the middle one. So from my understanding, this is like the concept art of Dooku when they were starting to create episode 3, or episode 2 rather. This was like the first kind of rendering of what Dooku would look like. So you got that variant. On the right side, this is like the standard cover. I'm probably most interested in this one, in all honesty. I wouldn't be upset if I got the concept drawing one in the middle.
I kind of like the concept one.
But the one on the right, just to me, seems like it epitomizes Dooku so well, right? Lightsaber ignited, lightning out the right hand. It looks pretty cool. There is a fourth one I want you guys to know about. It's a movie variant, so it's Christopher Lee as Dooku on the cover.
Oh, that'd be cool.
No, it looks like a really bad Photoshop job.
Oh, no.
It you know what? That's what it looks like to me, Jesse. You might really like it. But I didn't think it was worth showing. But if that's something that interests you, you should definitely check these out at the local comic book shop. If I'm making an assumption, I think the middle Dooku one might be the one that if any of these are worth value, it's going to be that one. It's going to be that one. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and jump in now to our next topic, I believe, here in Pages or Pixels Pieces. Oh, yeah, we're going to show ahead. Yeah, those are the covers for Star Wars 61 on the left. And then you have the Anakin single-shot covers on the right. So next topic here in Pages, Pixels, Pieces, cruising right along here on a Sunday afternoon, is we have a new synopsis for Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice novel. And this is the one I think that we're all pretty excited about here at the table.
You've been talking about this one for months, David.
I have. And, they actually just released some advertising images with quotes that you can find, I believe, on StarWars.com. And it's a quote from Dooku, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. And it's about, law. It's about, rule. So, Obi-Wan's quote is about, rules are rules, and they're meant to be followed. The Jedi Order has rules because it's trying to guide us to a better life. And then Qui-Gon is all what's the point of having that rule if we come across a situation where those rules are compromised and there's a life at risk? And then Dooku's all about ultimate power. Because it perfectly encapsulates what those characters are about. Because Dooku's all about ultimate power. Qui-Gon was all about, each situation must be evaluated as its own, and then Obi-Wan was, you got to follow the rules. He was a rules guy for a little while until he created Vader. Okay, so anyways, the synopsis is pretty cool. I'm going to read some of it, not all of it, and I want to get your guys' take. So, an unexpected offer threatens the bond between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi. As the two Jedi navigate a dangerous new planet and uncertain future, a Jedi must be a fearless warrior, guardian of the justice, and a scholar in the ways of the Force. But perhaps a Jedi's most essential duty is to pass on what they have learned. Master Yoda trained Dooku, Dooku trained Qui-Gon, and now Qui-Gon has his own Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But while Qui-Gon has faced all manner of threats and danger as a Jedi, nothing has ever scared him like the thought of failing his apprentice. Obi-Wan has deep respect for his master, but struggles to understand him. Why must Qui-Gon often disregard the laws that bind the Jedi? Why is Qui-Gon drawn to ancient Jedi prophecies instead of the more practical concerns? And why wasn't Obi-Wan told that Qui-Gon is considering an invitation to join the Jedi Council, knowing it would mean the end of their partnership? The simple answer scares him. Obi-Wan has failed his master. When Jedi Real Avros, another former student of Dooku, requests their assistance with a political dispute, Jin and Kenobi travel to the royal court of Pijal for what may be their final mission together. What should be a simple assignment quickly becomes clouded by deceit and by visions of violent disaster that take hold in Qui-Gon's mind. As Qui-Gon's faith and prophecy grows, Obi-Wan's faith in him is tested, just as a new threat surfaces to demand that master and apprentice come together as never before. Okay, so there's more. You can find it on StarWars.com. I feel like we all were tired of hearing me talk. But you hear that synopsis, Jesse, and you have to be excited because you think that threat, and I could be making an assumption here, maybe is a Dooku. Or maybe it is this rumor that Qui-Gon's going to be playing with the dark side of the Force somehow.
I'm just excited for the novel to begin with because, for one, Qui-Gon Jinn, probably my all-time favorite Jedi next to Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for this book. Like, I want it. I'll get a hardcover of it. Like, that's how excited. Like, if I like a book, I'll just get a standard copy. No, I want a hardcover of this.
See, Jody Hauser did that single shot of Qui-Gon for Age of the Republic. It was exceptional. You got to see Qui-Gon in battle, and that was awesome. There's a couple things, and so I mentioned that because I think there's a really positive response. We know that comic got a second printing, so a lot of people were interested in this. I think people are going to be digging this book. Like I mentioned, I'm excited to see, did Qui-Gon play with the dark side? Are we going to hear him and Dooku having a conversation of some sort about how maybe Qui-Gon needs to consider leaving the Order? Or is this going to be like with Dooku still in the Jedi Order? I think that's interesting. I think it's fascinating that here we're even learning in this synopsis that Qui-Gon had an invitation to the council. And I thought it was always a situation where Qui-Gon never got the invitation to join because he was so opinionated. David, is that how you understood it?
That's how I understood it, but I like this better, that he had the chance and he turned it down because he wanted to go focus on certain aspects of the Force.
And I think that's a really good point to mention, too, because I think it's a good hook for them to say, well, this is going to challenge his relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and was there some like strife in that relationship that Qui-Gon didn't thought, well, maybe I'm not the best master for this kid. I need to go to the council. Maybe I didn't take Yoda's lessons to heart well enough, because we know ultimately he failed Dooku, right? Or Dooku failed him, depending on how you want to look at that. So I'm really excited. I'm not sure how I'm going to do with more Episode 1 Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, I like how Obi-Wan evolved in The Phantom Menace, but at the very beginning, he's kind of a little brash, kind of a smart mouth, not really my favorite. He grows and kind of mirrors Anakin in a way, kind of bratty, right? So I'm curious to see how I like even younger Obi-Wan Kenobi in this book.
Silos is in the live chat right now, and he thinks it'd be really cool if they talked about Dooku and Jin as master and apprentice and how that relationship worked.
I totally agree because, when you're in Attack of the Clones and just that scene where he's captured, Obi-Wan's captured in the catacombs, and then he's hinting that, Dooku hints that maybe Qui-Gon thought the same way he did. My wheels have been turning ever since I saw that in 2002, wondering, would Qui-Gon really do that? And then you start hearing these ideas that maybe Qui-Gon was curious about the dark side of the Force. And you wonder why he was so opinionated and why he went against the council so many times. I mean, it leads you to go a certain path. And I think it'll be interesting to read this book and see how that better shapes our understanding of how we arrive at the start of Phantom Menace.
Do you think that Qui-Gon was offered a seat on the council and rejected it, or do you think he was offered it and then they rescinded that offer because of the decisions he made?
I think we're going to find out in this book, which I'm really excited about. I would personally like it to be, I want it to be that he had the invitation and he denied it. But I think for a lot of fans, they could see it being like a thing where Qui-Gon got reprimanded, which also might tie better to the conversation that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon have in Phantom, where they're on the balcony. And you almost get the impression that Obi-Wan is like scolding Qui-Gon.
It's not a direct, but it's like you would be on the council, master, if you, simply, it's like along those lines where he's basically saying that. So I kind of feel like, I think probably they, rescinded that invitation.
Yes. And you just mentioned that comment. So that I'm going back to the synopsis. It's like, so Does Qui-Gon give up the opportunity to train Obi-Wan? We obviously know he doesn't, but it definitely sounds like Obi-Wan wants Qui-Gon to take that opportunity. Like, he's like, no, you could already be on the council. Like, he wants that for his master. So maybe we get all the questions that set up the answers we get in Phantom Menace in this book, which, again, with Claudia Gray doing it, with Lost Stars, with Bloodlines, with Leia, Princess of Alderaan, she just continues to crush. Really excited for this book. Comes out the second week of April. My birthday is April 9th. This comes out the second week of April.
Is that a subtle hint, David?
I mean, it could,
or
or
not so subtle hint.
Or Angel's Envy whiskey. We're just not quite sure on what I'm wanting for my birthday. But nevertheless, what do you think? Does this excite you? It has me thrilled. Maybe what you do is you comment in the live chat if you're watching live, but when you come back on the rewind, you comment down below, letting us know what you think about the synopsis, and then you include size matters not, so we get you in our 800 subscriber giveaway contest. Next topic. We're having a blast here at Pages, Pixels, Pieces. It's a lot of book news this week. The last couple of weeks, we were talking a lot about EA not making good decisions with video games. This week, we're talking about here's new content, here's new books, here's new comic books.
But Star Wars tends to do that. They tend to drop a lot of their novels at the same time, or their comic announcements at the same time.
Yes. So, I mean, you're looking here on your screen now. We have 4 different titles. We're going to go one by one. And Jordan, this is where I was saying, yeah, he knows what I'm about to say. So let's throw up that first image because we previously reported, I believe it was last week, the Marvel series that will feature Black Spire Outpost, Antique Dealer, Doc Andor. This guy here on your screen. They're saying this cover isn't final. It's probably going to be this. They probably just put that disclaimer up there so people don't run crazy with it.
I mean, that's a lot of detail in a piece of art for them not to select that.
I'm really digging this, Jesse. I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but it's like well, you were here with us on the last episode. So the rise of the First Order, its effects on life at Wild Space, and this series again is being written by Ethan Sachs, art by Will Sliney, and the series debuts April 24th. Again, my theory is somehow this guy knows Maz Kanata, and somehow this guy gets the Skywalker saber to Maz Kanata on Takodana. But that's just my theory. Let's go to Delilah Dawson, because this is her new book. We just found out about this, and I need to take a break from reading. So, David, can you tell us about author Delilah Dawson's new book?
So, she's the gal who wrote Phasma and Perfect Weapon. Phasma, I'm told, is a really good book. I don't think I've heard much about Perfect Weapon.
It's about a bounty hunter that we get in Takodana.
Did you read that one yet?
Oh, I have not yet read that one.
She's done other contributions as well. This book to me sounds incredible. It's being dubbed the prequel to the Disney Parks experience, which makes me wonder if it'll lead directly into Episode 9. I'm really excited for this one because I love how they're taking all of this content and now focusing it around the experience at the Disney parks, which will open up later. Is that this spring or is it next spring?
It's this year. We're getting it this year.
Awesome. So this particular book, General Leia Organa dispatches her top spy to Bat-2 in a desperate search for Resistance allies. And this is going to come to us on September 3rd. Through her Twitter account, though, the author, Delilah Dawson, announced another Star Wars project she's working on. It's the Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, we have an image of that, too, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And her tweets speak for themselves.
Did you lose your place? I can take over.
I didn't lose, but yeah.
No, you're fine. So this is the second book that she's writing, and this was funny because there was actually Star Wars had tech issues this week. Everyone's having tech issues in the Star Wars community, but they were trying to unveil this on the Star Wars show, and there were issues with getting that online, which they do a great job. Anthony Carboni is on that show. You get a great quality of Star Wars news on there.
Can I just say I love this cover?
Oh,
I
yeah,
love
it's
the
great.
Big Vader
really,
helmet with Luke
really
standing
good.
in front, the X-Wings on the side.
Well, you know what's interesting is it's going to go through episodes 1 through 6, I believe, where it's from the perspective of the Skywalkers. So, like, you're going to be going through, I understand as I think you're going to go through, like, episode 4 as Luke. You're going to go through 5 as Luke.
Can
6.
she just skip episode 1? Because I really don't want to hear about young Anakin building sand castles and hating on sand.
I'm really going to be excited to hear what, like, Andy Gutierrez has to say about this on the Star Wars show. I still haven't gone back and listened to the episode, but I'm sure she has a really hot take about this whole situation as far as this book is concerned. I think it's great. I think it's going to be awesome, and I think that perspective could be pretty valuable as a fans. I mean, it's kind of like from like a certain point of view, right? Like we bounced around the original trilogy from all the different views of these characters.
Some great, some not.
But here's a whole book where it's from the perspective of Luke, from Leia, from Anakin. Like, how cool would it be to get Anakin's perspective in the Vader suit? Like, that could be really fun. So I'm really excited about that. We also have another book on the list. We just keep going here. And this one is from Zorata Cordova, is how you say the name, and author of the Vicious Deep trilogy. This is going to be what they say is an intimate tale that takes place on Batuu from StarWars.com. It's going to be a young adult novel. This is pretty cool. It's called A Crash of Fate, and we're learning a lot about this planet. Obviously, we need to learn about this planet because they want us to know what this theme park is going to be like when we arrive. Because what they also have said about the theme park is every person who enters the park gets like a character. Like you have a role in everyone else's experience is what I'm learning. So I don't know how they're going to pull that off.
They're going to have a great time when I show up.
Well, Jesse, you're the kind of guy who's going to try and take up like 2 or 3 roles. You're going to really try and be in the middle of all this. But we get a little bit of some synopsis with this. I don't know why that word's so tough, but we get these 2 characters in the book, Izzy and Jules. They're best friends until Izzy's family abruptly left Batuu when she was 6. And now she picks back, and Jules, the boy who never left, is unsure what to make of her. While on the run from vengeful smugglers and an angry pirate, the 2 friends will come to terms with who they are and what they mean to each other. This book drops August 6th. Really excited for that book. And I don't think we mentioned, but that second Delilah Dawson book, the Skywalker Saga, that's going to drop September 3rd. Just want to make sure I went back to that and clarified.
All of these books are considered canon, right,
Yes.
David?
Yep. All these books are considered canon.
And so is the experience at the theme park.
This storyline, the main storyline, yes, is considered canon. There is a canon story that is tied into the rides,
Okay.
And your overall experience there, which I'm not sure how they're going to pull off. You know, and Jesse and I had this conversation quite often, where it's just like it's getting harder and harder to keep the canon straight because so much gets added into it. And Disney's original statement was everything is canon, but now we're learning like Forces of Destiny might not be canon, and some of these really young adult books might not be canon.
That's why they need me as their lore master.
Well, that's why you technically have Pablo Hidalgo in the storytelling group.
Yes.
You know?
I said, like I say, technically on that one. Are you insinuating that you're
Pablo,
not happy
hire
with
me.
their...
Well, no, I just say that because we know that the story group, from what we've been allowed to know, is they're more like consultants for directors and writers. Is here's a story. Can we fact check this to make sure that this doesn't complicate anything? Oh, okay, yeah, it doesn't. You don't have anything wrong, or no, actually, this character doesn't work. But we have a character over here from this other thing that we can tie in. Saw Gerrera, for example. You know, we have this character from the Clone Wars. Let's bring him now to Rogue One. So that's just an example, not a slam. Just clarification. We have one more book that excites us, and I will say this though about this last one, A Crash of Fate. Kind of sounds Lost Stars-ish. Kind of sounds familiar to that, and that was a great Claudia Gray novel. Here we are on Star Wars Myth and Fables by George Mann, illustrations by Grant Griffin. This is going to be a lot of lore within Star Wars lore. And so, Jesse, my question to you is, because I thought of you immediately when I heard the news about this book, because we like Star Wars lore, and we like knowing the canonical timeline and events that lined up, and we'll get really nerdy sometimes and go on Wikipedia and learn about expanded universe stuff, or we've read a lot of those novels. But what about lore in like the lore of the lore? Is that something that interests you? Of like the fairy tales and poems kids in Star Wars would have heard from their parents?
Well, yeah, and a good example of this is in Rebels when Dave Filoni mentions Tor Vizsla and the history of the Darksaber. That's a great example. And a lot of people love that. So getting a books, novels, comics, everything. That'd be great. It really would. It expands the universe. I think on some level, it gives people ideas. Yeah, I am totally a big fan of if you think you have a great fan fiction that you want to try to get published or turn into something. This is how you build that.
As a fable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of roll with that. I think something that kind of took me out of Rogue One briefly was the doll of the stormtrooper that was found at the Urso homestead there. And I was like, oh, that's weird, because it's like action figures in Star Wars. Like, that's something that we have. Like, it's merchandise that we have. But then it's like, okay, well, wait. Again, this is a similarity. How this galaxy works is the kids have to have things to play with. They have to have things to engage them. So that makes sense.
And
So-
merchandising.
and merchandising, right?
Merchandising,
The Empire needs to fund the Death Star. The Empire needs to fund this Navy fleet. It needs to fund a better, weapon for their stormtroopers. The E-11s are faulty, So it makes sense to. It's starting to make more sense to me that this would happen. I'm just not sure how I feel about okay, so we have the Knights of the Round Table, and this lore is going to be a Jedi who fought this dragon creature in the space. I'm just making a guess of what one of these tales will be. I think it'll be interesting, and I think it's a book that I see Jesse picking up. I think this is a book that he'll pick up in, and I'd love for you to dive into it, and we had that conversation together. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Anything we haven't talked about, any of these books that really get you guys excited, gets you sweaty, gets your thighs tingling. Wow, I guess nothing gets the thighs tingling around here but me.
I'm a little concerned about your.
I get goosebumps on my arms sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was having. It was goosebumps. I was just saying googling or googling, oogling. What were they doing?
I think he's having a stroke.
I needed water, if anything. What do you think about all these books that we got? Let us know down in the comments below. We have, I don't know if we have a thumbnail. We might just have photos of these new images. But before we get out of this segment real quick, I wanted to show you the new sets that we're getting for April. This is...
Are these ones going to get us in trouble?
No, these won't.
Okay,
because
excellent.
These are
official.
Yeah, I've already showed these once on the channel, but I wanted to make sure I included these on our show. We're going through a slideshow now of the sets. You're getting the Scout Walker there that comes with a couple of droids and a defense system for Chewbacca. You get an Imperial carrier. You get 3 Stormtroopers and a Shadow Trooper. Plus
that's almost worth it just for the minifigs.
Yeah, it is if you're army
building. Mock builder.
There's that new Slave 1, Jesse, that you really like.
It's tiny.
It's tiny compared to your UCS one.
Yeah, I've already
I like the Pod Racer. I've been trying to get Anakin's Pod Racer and Sebulba's, but I'm also liking the anniversary minifigures we're getting. So you got Han with the last one. You get Lando with the Snowspeeder here.
I really like the Snowspeeder.
It's the same Snowspeeder we've gotten the last 5 times.
I know, but I don't have it. So
Darth Vader 20th anniversary figure here with the Scout Walker that I'm a fan of. I'm probably getting this one. Just complements everything well. Here's the Solo with the original Megaphone Blaster. I love that because I'm not necessarily a fan of the stud shooters. And then here is, again, the Princess Leia with the Slave 1. Again, what makes these different from the originals from 99 is on the back of the torsos, it says 20th anniversary. I know collectors were really concerned that if they came back with these molds, would it depreciate the value of those original minifigures? They will not, because an original Lando is worth $100 right now on eBay.
Cow.
I mean, that's crazy. Now, Jordan, if we hit the eye on the slideshow, I think we just go back to the thumbnail, and I just want everyone to know that there's actually a deep dive conversation that I do on these Lego sets. In case you didn't know, it is going to be, it's going to have this April 2019 date on the thumbnail. But I've done a 10, 12-minute conversation about all these sets individually, what I like, what I didn't like, and I would love for people to go to that video and check out what I did, what I talked about. I show you a closer look at all the minifigures there, and there, as you see on your screen, that is the thumbnail you need to be looking for. I have all 5 sets there, and it looks awesome. Everybody, let's give snaps in the microphone for Jordan because he's awesome. He makes us look pretty, and he makes the show look awesome. Let's go ahead now to the next segment of the show, but first we want to thank our sponsor, as always, because Pages, Pixels, Pieces, as well as Beyond the Panel, a new show on Beyond the Blast Doors YouTube channel, is sponsored by the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. Proud to have our local comic book shop as our official sponsor. Comics, collectibles, toys, Magic the Gathering, and board games. The Fantasy Shop in St. Louis, proudly serving St. Louis since 1981. Stash or Blast is the segment where we just talk about random things that we really like, but we don't have time to dive in too deep because we are getting out of time. And so first things first, here we go. Ashley Eckstein, Daniel Logan, and more will be signing at the Ultimate Fan Event this April, Star Wars Celebration 2019 in Chicago. Jesse, stash or blast it?
I 100% stash it.
You're going to smother Daniel Logan. I'm concerned. We talked to him on Instagram. He says he'll be looking out for us.
I would just love to meet him. He seems like a really nice guy. I follow him on Instagram. He's just really energetic, and he's got a really sweet, movie accurate Boba Fett costume, and I think he's hinting that he's going to be kind of cruising the floor in it. So kind of pulling an Adam Savage.
It'll be cool.
Mythbusters, but
David, stash or blast it?
I'm gonna stash it. John Ratzenberger is gonna be there. He was Cliff on Cheers, and I had no idea he was in Empire Strikes Back. So I'm excited to see John.
Next up, we have Star Wars Episode 9. Set photo suggests a new snowy planet in Episode 9. Also, for that first one, I stashed it as well. Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka, come on. But here we go. Episode 9, snowy planet. Stash it or blast it. What are we saying, guys? Is this Hoth? Is it a new planet?
New planet, I'm going to stash it. I like seeing new terrain.
I'll stash it.
I'm gonna blast it because I want it to be not just a snowy planet. I heard online the other day, and I can't remember who had this conversation, but give us a planet where like there's like multiple climates, like multiple terrains. Like let's really change it up here because Crate and that whole Battle of Crate, very reminiscent of the Battle of Hoth. Like let's do something different. Unless some people think that we're going back to whatever Starkiller base was. My understanding was that entire planet was destroyed, but maybe it wasn't. Because there's also some rumor that it might have been Elam, the planet Elam, but also that has never been confirmed. So,
did you ever see the TV show Lost in Space on Netflix when they rebooted it last year?
No, never.
If you want to talk about a really cool planet, go watch that episode. It's only like 10 episodes, and the planet's like revolving a black hole, so it goes from like cold and frosty to like hot and lava and everything in between. Really cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, hey, listen to this. Did you guys already tell me if you blast or stash it?
Stash it.
You stash it?
Yeah.
You stash it? I think we'll all stash it. I'll take it back. I'm not going to blast it. I'm going to stash it. Number 3 here in Stash It or Blast It, Richard E. Grant, knowing what's coming, Episode 9's level of secrecy is worth it. He says the reaction in the room when his character name was announced blew people away. Jesse, stash it or blast it?
100% stash it.
He plays the villain really well, but he says he's not Thrawn. He says the character is his own. I want him to be Thrawn so bad. If you put him side by side, it looks perfect.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to stash it.
You're going to stash it
Yeah.
just because he knows. I mean, we're making the assumption he's a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, hey, a quote like that, how do you blast it? I'm going to stash it too. Last one in the segment, rumors return. Hayden Christensen is in negotiations to return as Anakin Skywalker in Episode 9.
Blast it. Don't need it.
I'm gonna stash it. I've watched. It's really tough because Hayden Christensen takes a lot of heat, especially with Attack of the Clones. But I feel on
deservingly
some
so.
level, in Episode 3, I think he really portrays the character of Anakin Skywalker, especially in the latter half, really well. And I've seen some of his other movies and everything, and he's not a bad actor. At all. So I would like to see something.
I think with Hayden Christensen, it just comes down to direction. And
Yeah.
faster, more intense isn't good direction, I think, for, at the time, really not that experienced of an actor. I mean, if we're just being real. I'm going to stash it because what I want is Anakin and Kylo having a scene together where there is some kind of communication, whether that is a young Anakin Skywalker training on a holocron or that is an Anakin who has returned to tell Kylo, you have one last chance. You have one last chance. And I think that might tie into how Leia does or does not die at the end of this movie. I really do think if they're just sending the characters at the end just off into the sunset, I think Leia could live through this movie too. It could totally happen. It could totally happen. That's it for Stash It or Blast It. That's a fun segment. We went slower than sometimes in the past, but that's okay. We get really excited about things. I want to dive into the live chat real quick before we go on, and it looks like we have Pete with us. He likes the idea of Richard E. Grant playing Thrawn. He also likes. He was just asking who the heck would that be? Who the heck could Richard be playing? It also looks like Underground St. Louis is with us. Would like to see Hayden return. He also has a comment about Legos that it just disappeared. So I'm sorry about that, Underground. My buddy Sam from St. Louis. Here we go. I'll make it up. Sam says he's not a bad actor, talking about Hayden Christensen, just a product of bad writing. That could be valid. And
I could buy that.
Comic Zombie is really beating his chest here, really beating his chest that he wants a chance for redemption for Kylo. And Robert Glavin says he did a good job. Maybe he's talking about Hayden Christensen in the prequels. I'm stashing that. I think it's going to be great. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. Staying on target, I should say. And here we go. Size matters not. I talked about this at the top of the show. If you haven't already heard, we're doing a giveaway. We're giving away Anakin Skywalker's Starfighter and Lego set. I actually built it right above here. It's about a $20 Lego set. We're also giving away 5 Star Wars comics that I will not show you until next week at the top of the show when we give away that prize. But all you have to do is after this live show ends, you come back to this episode and you comment in the comment section, and somewhere it has to include size matters not, referencing to this topic in the show, referencing to Yoda's teaching, right, to Luke Skywalker, and so many other Padawans, I'm sure. And so be sure to include it. So tell us what you think about the show, what you think about the new setup, what you think about a certain topic that we talked about. You can comment 1 time, 5 times. I don't care. Just make sure it says size matters not. Okay, so here we are. We have another one of these Galaxy of Adventure shorts drop from Star Wars over the last week, and it really got my wheels turning because it showcases or it kind of redefines the encounter between Yoda and Dooku in Attack of the Clones, that final duel, and it shows like I just love how it's kind of like charcoal painting. The art is a little different on this one than the previous ones we've looked at. Not as crisp, but very cool. And what it is like, you know, it's the same idea that, you know, Yoda is like a third of the size of Dooku, but he's able to flip around. He's still able to fight. It's because he's in tune with the Force. And there's this look that they have Yoda give as Dooku goes away and Yoda has to save Obi-Wan and Anakin from getting squished. And so I had to think to myself, how mad was Yoda at Obi-Wan and Anakin for failing there on Geonosis? Because obviously we know how that plays out. They have like a multi-year war. A lot of Jedi die. A lot of innocent worlds are captured. Ultimately allows for the the galaxy to be taken over by the Sith. So that's a pretty big screw up in that moment. Yep. Okay, we don't know that though. We're not Quinlan Voss. We don't have the gift of foresight, right? So, Jesse, let's start with you on this one. Do you think Yoda's mad? Is there disappointment here? Was Yoda failed by Obi-Wan and Anakin on Geonosis?
No, I don't see Yoda like holding like that kind of grudge or anger about it. It wouldn't make sense for the character. And I also think of just that particular scene, though. I mean, you've got Anakin, who's very reckless. He rushes into that fight, and you hear no Anakin wait. The thing is that Obi-Wan knows that Dooku is a very skilled duelist, and he's a master of the lightsaber and everything. So it's no wonder that they lost, honestly.
But isn't Obi-Wan supposed to be at this point like he's already one of the most well-respected Jedi Knights? Like he should have been able to hold his own. I feel
like what I see here is there's actually growth between Obi-Wan and Anakin from this point to that beginning fight on Episode 3, because they're fighting together. They're fighting Dooku together in sync. And do you think
it was maybe emotional because again, Dooku used to be Qui-Gon's master. There's like an emotional thing
betrayal
there, and I think that might have been a factor. Like Obi-Wan wasn't in one with the Force and his emotions. David,
I think that some of it was just similar fighting styles because Yoda would have taught Count Dooku. Count Dooku would have taught Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon would have taught. So all of these guys are learning basically from the same original source, if you will. So I think a lot of that is just they have similar fighting styles that they can anticipate each other's fights, which is why experience then becomes the winning factor.
Two best examples of Dooku's fighting style is not in the movies. Micro Series 2003, when he's in that scene training Grievous. Love how that artwork, which is the same art style they use for Samurai Jack, how that captured like Dooku's movements. But also there's a training sequence in the Clone Wars animated series with Dooku training Grievous, and it's also just incredible, like how like a one-handed duelist like Dooku kind of is, how he navigates Grievous. It's pretty cool. What do you think about this conversation? Do you think that Yoda was like mad, like, guys, this is going to really screw us over in the long run? Do you think he failed himself? Like, how do you interpret that scene with Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, and Dooku? Let us know. I do want to know that I thought this was kind of interesting. It comes up. This is a Galaxy of Adventures short, and they do like really great side videos. Like for Yoda, they found like every grunt or laugh he makes in all of Star Wars movies,
and they put it together.
Puts them together. Like for example, another one they did was every lightsaber ignition in all of the movies. There's 147 times a lightsaber gets ignited.
How long is that video?
It's like 4 or 5 minutes. It's like anyway. But we got some trivia here with Yoda, and I want to ask you guys some trivia questions and see which one of you knows a little bit more about Master Yoda. You down for this?
Yeah.
A little Star Wars trivia. It's something that David's been begging for a long time.
Are we going back and forth? Are we buzzing in? How? What are the mechanics here?
I think. What do you guys want to do?
I feel like if we do this, I'm gonna hit something. So.
All right, we'll just go round table. We'll just see what I do.
We'll
start with David. We'll alternate. We'll start with David. Okay. First question here is what species, and guys, if you want to participate in the chat, you can, but maybe we need to turn David's lid down. I don't want him cheating, okay?
Okay.
I don't want the live chat to ruin it, but if you guys are live with us, be sure to comment. And Jordan, if you know the answers, by all means, you shout them out. Don't shout them out. Don't you dare. First question is what species did Yoda fight alongside during the Clone Wars?
Wookiees.
Oh, okay. Jesse? What?
One more time with the question.
You get a lifeline if you need it. What species did Yoda fight alongside during the Clone Wars?
Yeah, Wookiees.
Okay, Wookiees. All right, you are
I got
correct.
it first.
How old is Yoda?
At which point?
Yeah, that's kind of an open question there.
We'll say at the time of death. You got 15 seconds.
I know this one.
You got 10 seconds. This is like the one that I feel like you should get. 5 seconds. Oh, Jesse, come on. There's a quote.
Is it 900 years you reach? Look as good you will not?
What are you going to say, David?
He's at least 900.
Oh, is that the line when at least 900 years
Yeah,
of age you
he's-
reach?
He says when 900 you reach, but
All
we
right.
don't.
Look
we
as good
don't
you
know.
will not.
I know Yoda, guys. We don't know specifically. Yoda stopped counting, but we know he's at least 900.
Okay.
Probably a few years
Because of
over
that quote, yeah.
I would
was
say
just trying to
because-
think of the quote there.
I would say because of the quote, we would have to say the answer is at least 900 years of age. But everyone in the live chat right now says it's 900, it's 900. Okay, so we'll give it to you, 900 years old. All right, that's how we're going to say for Yoda. What is different about the way Yoda speaks?
He puts his verbs at the end of the sentence.
Backwards he talks, yes.
Okay, there we go. So we'll give that. And the last one is, what kind of lightsaber does Yoda use?
A short green one.
Ooh, I don't know if I can accept that one. Jesse?
Are we looking for like a technical term?
Yeah.
Because I'd say, I mean, if you're looking for a technical term, he's probably using a Shoto.
Oh my gosh, you are correct, sir. The fifth and final question. Good job, Jesse.
Mainly because that would actually match his stature over.
You know a character I'd like to see more about? We see another of Yoda's species on the Jedi Council. Her name was Yaddle.
Yeah.
I'd love to see like a short little comic book about her. Or
The
something.
Rebel, Star Wars Resistance, the Resistance podcast over there at Star Wars Newsnet, they had an interview with a guy, and apparently George hated Yaddle.
Really?
Yeah, fun fact. And apparently Yaddle didn't go the way he wanted, and then he hated Mara Jade, apparently. Loathed Mara Jade. Fun fact. And shout out to the guys over at Star Wars Resistance broadcast and Star Wars Newsnet, because they are the provider of several of our headlines every week.
Fan Comlink?
Fan Comlink time.
I love
This is
Fan
one of my
Comlink.
favorites.
I think it's Fan Comlink time.
Uh-huh.
And real quick, off the top here, and we can, I don't know, Jordan, if you just want to bring us the camera, I'm not sure. But real quick, we're being asked by a lot of people in the live chat, because it is Super Bowl Sunday. A lot of people thought, including myself, thought we would get a teaser today, or at least the name of the movie. And when I'm looking online, I did a real quick at Twitter. I'm not seeing anything break. So I am pretty sure, because of that report we got last weekend, we are not going to get anything tonight about the movie. So real quick, when do we get the title? When do we get the title for episode 9?
I'm going to have to say, if we're not getting it today, it's going to be Celebration.
Celebration.
If it's not Celebration, it's going to be tomorrow. That would be the funniest Trump. It'd be like everyone was like ready to talk about the Super Bowl tomorrow morning, and then Disney's like, no, wait a minute.
Good morning, America.
Good
Here we
morning,
go.
America.
Good morning, Galaxy.
First topic here in, let me pull up the tweets here. The first tweet we have here is from Claire. And the first question that we have here is, what Star Wars comic or novel are required reading in your mind and why? Doesn't have to be canon, Claire says. Just something that you think significantly adds to the Star Wars galaxy and brings you joy. I've been going with Jeff C. a lot at first, so let's go with David. David, if there is something that is a must-read for a Star Wars fan, what is it?
Both of the Star Wars Darth Vader comics.
Okay, cool.
The Soul Run, my favorite. The Gillen Run was also phenomenal.
Jesse, what about you?
You're going to have to forgive me. I guess I can't remember the author's name, but the Shadows of the
I
Empire.
can look it up.
Oh, absolutely.
Simply because it's a story that bridges the timeline between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and
George Lucas, Steve Perry, and John Wagner, 1996.
yeah, there's also a corresponding Nintendo 64 video game, which was fantastic for the time and everything. But this book is just really great. The characters in it, I mean, mainly centers around, you get Dash Rendar, Princess Leia, a little bit of Luke in there, some Lando, Prince Zizor. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but
I've heard it said that about it.
it's just a really nice balance and everything, and it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't take anything away from like the movies, but it adds to like that in between space.
Thrawn trilogy, I feel like you have to throw out there, right? Like the original Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah, because then I think if you read that too, you'll have a greater appreciation for what they did in Rebels with the character as well. So, but yeah, I said the number one though for me it would be Shadows of the Empire.
I think if I'm going with like expanded universe or Legends, I want to say that Thrawn trilogy is really good, but I also want to say like the Star Wars Dark Horse, like the Legacy line was exceptional. You know, I always talk about the one with the Adam Hughes Luke Skywalker cover is just gorgeous. The Legacy Legacy was really good. There was the Clone Wars. I always think of that first Asajj Ventress cover. I think of the Anakin cover. Those stories are just really good. I think Asajj because here's a strong, fierce female character that was added in the Star Wars lore. 2003 is when we get our first look at her. And she just has such a complex story that has evolved through Clone Wars, both in micro series, but obviously more the Clone Wars that we get with Dave Filoni. I have a lot. The Lost Command 5-issue miniseries with Vader is EU, but that's really good. It shows like Vader grieving over Padme. That's really spectacular. New canon though, I'm going to give you Lords of the Sith or the Tarkin novel. I think those are both two really great books. Lords of the Sith gives you a really great insight into the relationship between Vader and Sidious. You get some Cham Syndulla in there as well, Hera, Syndulla's dad. But then in Tarkin, you get this like really big deep dive into who that character was and how he had like always this life of survival and how he became so manipulative and cold and cunning, and how he is a really good match for Vader that we see so prevalent in A New Hope. So great question, Claire. Thank you so much. Next question that we have, I think it's from Charlie. And Charlie is asking us about, should Lucasfilm have more sequel trilogy-based books released at the time of the film's release like we had with the prequels? I think this is an interesting question because we get a lot of books now after the movies, and I think it's because they don't want to give anything away. A lot of times we'll read these books and answers are given. Now, you know, I would say I would have really liked to have known, like, Cassian Andor was the product of separatists as I went into Rogue One, or I would have liked to learn that fact in the movie. Instead, I learned that book, I think, March of the next year,
4 or 5 months after the
when that movie came out. When the movie came out, so you know that's a little bit of a complaint, but I don't know, Jesse. I mean, we kind of all agree, I think, is we like to see the movie first because Star Wars is not a franchise where it's book to movie; it's movie to book.
Yeah. The only one, it has to have a meaningful story and lore. That's how I feel. It doesn't matter if it's prequel, original, or sequel. That's how I've always looked at books and comics and everything. If I don't, in my mind, if I don't think it fits, I don't want to read it.
Okay, David?
I firmly believe that this is a movie franchise, so anything that's important should be in the movies, and then the book should be extra stuff that's kind of fun.
So if we go with that approach, which is somewhat mimicking what you were saying, what I'm saying, Jesse, I think that we have to say, keep it the same, because it's a movie franchise before it's a book. And kind of like, you know, expanding our knowledge. The critical point should be in the movie, but expanding the knowledge are definitely for the books. Next question that we have here is regarding our favorite moment, I believe. Oh, man. Jordan, throw me out. What's her name? Kristen Mingle. I'm so sorry. I have the tweets out of order, and I didn't have included here who asked who. So the question is, favorite memory. What's your favorite Star Wars memory that we have? Is there a point in your life where Star Wars had a major impact on you? So, David, let's start with you here.
I mean, there are two big Star Wars things that pop out in my mind, and One is, of course, when you asked me to join this podcast. So I guess that'd be a pretty big thing that
that
Star
was
Wars
sweet.
got me into.
That was really sweet.
But I remember being in 3rd grade and hanging out with Tom Hastings and Bobby West in the little reading corner of Mrs. Darbachek's class. And they were huge Star Wars junkies, and they started sucking me into. And they would read books. Like I remember one that we'd read and talk about was... I think also called Hand of the Emperor or something.
Hair of the Empire?
No, it was
Hand of the Empire.
Darth Vader's glove.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Is that the name of the book?
I know which one you're talking about. I actually still have
I've got
it
a computer
somewhere.
right in front of me.
Something about claiming the glove and
The Gauntlet? Is that what it's called?
It's called Darth Vader's Glove, 1992.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Reading and talking about that book, and we had the Star Wars encyclopedia and going through and looking at the spaceships and the droids, and I don't know, it's just very good entertainment and helped me get into reading when I was a kid.
I really loved the young reader series Jedi Apprentice. There were like 16 or 17 of these books, and then they had like I don't want to call them big event books because I don't think they were, but like they were like larger books that were significant, but then you had filling in the gaps the 16 stretch, and it was so good. And you got all this young concept rendering of like young Obi-Wan and young Anakin and Qui-Gon training. And it was just a really fun series. I love that. What was the most critical moment in your Star Wars history? Had the most impact on you? Just the best Star Wars moment in your life, Jesse. Tell us.
favorite moment for me, and most of it think, oh, the first time seeing it. No, the favorite moment for me was when they did the special edition cut in like the 90s, and those were in the theater. My mom let me skip school for each one of those. And so I'm seeing this during the daytime, like when everybody else is working or in school. And in particular, I got to see Empire. And it was just my mom, my younger brother, and me, and my grandma. We had the whole theater to ourselves. It was fantastic. And just that opening moment on, Empire was just really powerful. I'd say at the point in life Star Wars really impacted me was... family was just going through a rough period of patch. I mean, lost of loved ones, some just bad surgery for my mom, a lot of complications and everything. And I hit kind of a bottom depression point. And that's when I started working on my cosplay, my Mandalorian cosplay. And it was a way for me to just kind of vent that and everything.
Wow.
And then the lore and everything, the EU lore of like the color meanings on Mandalorian armor, that's all built into my costume and whatnot. But I finished the helmet first and everything, and that was probably
To kind of like give it your place to kind of like escape.
Yeah, it was an escape, and and then it really hit me a couple of days before I went to PAX South, because I had finally completed version 1.
So like you kind of like had like a transformation.
Yeah, and it was just like
I feel like a really crappy friend because I did not know this story.
Yeah, it's a really crazy, just time period in my life. But I mean, just that conclusion and being able to go and show off this recently discovered talent that I never knew that I had. I had no experience with cosplay or anything when I built, this costume.
I love that.
So it's just, and seeing what it does for people when I'm at the cons, it's life changing.
Dude,
you see me in the armor, but I see a T-visor and the reactions of the kids from that perspective, and it's a whole different ball game.
That is so cool. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah.
I feel like a bad friend for not knowing, but kudos to you, man. That's awesome.
David, try to top that story.
Oh, yeah, I can't. I just think for me, like I love going and seeing the movies with you guys. Like we got to see The Last Jedi together in the same theater. But for me, it's really with my dad. Getting to watch that A New Hope for the first time. My mom had a work meeting that day, and he's like, "Listen, you cannot tell your mother what we're about to do." And for like some people, it's like their dad showing them like a dirty magazine, but my dad was opening me up to the Star Wars galaxy.
He's got it in a shoebox,
which might have honestly been worse
under the
depending
bed
on
or
who you
something.
ask in my life. Like it's become quite a bit of an obsession. And then the fact that for as long as we can, hopefully, Dad and I get to keep going back and seeing the next movie. It was really special to go see Phantom Menace in the theater with my dad because like we've just been watching Star Wars on the small screen our whole lives, and then you just see that opening sequence and like the droid battle with the Gungans. Like it still was like I just remember being a kid being like, wow, like this is what you can do to storytelling now. And then like we went back and watched Rogue One, loved it. We saw Last Jedi when I feel bad sharing the story, but like Luke dies, and my dad just yells, "That's BS!" And there's a small
in the middle of the IMAX.
Yes, there's like 30 people. There's a small child there. Mom's covering the kid's ears. That part.
That
didn't
shock
happen.
of horror.
I heard the people behind us were
gasp.
laughing. You know, like my dad had to be like that older guy in the theater going, "Oh, my Luke Skywalker," you know. But no, it was just fun to have that memory, and I hope to be able to go.
Boy.
That was at the Science Center, right? In the IMAX, so like the great big dome.
No, that was at the Ronnie's.
Is it Ronnie's?
That was Ronnie's in St. Louis. Yeah, crazy stuff. It looks like people are sharing their live chat, their thoughts in the live chat. We'll go to that in a second, but first I want to shout out a podcast that has become new friends of ours, really, in the last, I don't know. What are we thinking here? The last 24 hours. I was trying to give like an accurate amount of time because it's Claire and Kristen and Charlie. They all do this Imperial Senate podcast, and they just did a cool episode talking about the Maul Son of Dathomir comic series. And I was listening, and they have a really cool intro on their show. And you know, I get nerdy. Jordan gets nerdy with the production value of our show. They've got they're audio only, from my understanding. I've only listened to you guys by the audio. Anyways, they have a really cool intro, and they had a really great conversation. And I just was like, you know what, we didn't have anything for Fan Comic at the time. So I reached out to the whole crew, and I was like, hey, what if you guys each send a question? They did that. And so just want to give them a shout out. Here's their Twitter page. Go there, like them, subscribe to them on the channels that you can find their episodes, and be sure you chat them up. And let them know that if you are, like, if you do this, because you should, let them know that you heard about them from Beyond the Blast Doors. It would be a huge help. And I'm sure everybody over there, Claire and the gang, would really appreciate that. Charlie, from my understanding, it's kind of like us. Like, they're all hosts of the show, and they all do a really exceptional job. So that's great. We're going a little long today, so we have another fan comment question, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to hold off on that and go into the live chat for a couple more minutes, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up.
Comic Zombie's in there, and he's saying that for him, it was his dad, too. So shout out to Pops for being cool before it was cool. John Boffman says Phantom Menace was one of his moments, going back to see Star Wars as an adult. Wow.
C-Loss, I just like how C-Loss just will randomly shout in the chat, long live Mandalore, and we want more information on Mandalorian Jedi.
That's right.
Jesse C just got like really wet. He's just like getting real sweaty over there.
Daniel's Hot Topics talking about episode 1 in the summer of '99. Everyone dressed up in their cosplay. They had their glow lightsabers. It was great.
I really like Pete. Pete's in the chat. He talked about Starlog magazine when they had the pic of Vader and Luke together as a sneak peek at Return of the Jedi. That's a pretty cool moment. Like, I am instantly, I'm envious of everyone's moment because I think they're all cool. But someone who got to like experience the original trilogy as it was happening, that's like probably going to be the best period of fandom ever because you didn't have social media, you didn't have the influence of all these different sources of content. Like, there's a lot of Star Wars podcasts out there. We're glad that you found our Star Wars show. We're really glad about it.
I think one of the coolest ones, and it's funny. You guys might recall a Part 1 to lightsaber hilt build at Home Depot, and
I still have a bag of parts sitting on my
the plumbing parts. Anyway, this is funny because the assistant manager that worked with us with that is actually the new co-manager at Hobby Lobby.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So. And his name's John and everything, but he's actually a bigger Star Wars nerd than he let on
that day.
Does he watch the show?
Occasionally, yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, that's crap. He needs to be watching us.
Yeah. He's a busy guy, but he's one of those ones that got to see, the movies in the theaters, and we were talking about it the other day, and his mom was just like he had a choice to go see that or E.T., and he's just like, like field goal, like E.T. away kind of thing. Is like, no, we're gonna go see Star Wars and everything. So,
I like John. Can I shout out John Boffman real quick?
Yeah.
I made a mistake last week. I didn't shout out Penny because it was Penny's birthday. So happy birthday, Penny!
Belated.
Also want to shout out John Boffman because he's a Patreon supporter like Steve Weber, and they help us do really cool things like changing our sets, getting new things. And they let us, try out new content, and we just love the Patreon support. John has a cool story here. He got to see Phantom Menace, and then going back to see the new Star Wars as an adult. So, like, he's talking about how like he got to see Phantom, I guess, in the theater, and then being able to be an adult and still get new Star Wars content. Which I have to think, if you're like 12 in '77, and now like, here you are, like this many years later, and you're still getting new Star Wars stories, like you theoretically should be like over the moon, right? Did I cut you off?
No.
What are you gonna say?
There's a couple more pretty neat stories here in the live chat.
Okay.
Pete, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Dannenfelser, said that he saw the movie in '77, and then on the way home with his parents, he was in the back of his parents' station wagon shooting at the fighters, which I just think's fun and adorable. And Robert Galvin said that for him, the episode 3 in the space opera where Palpatine's having the conversation with Anakin.
That's the best.
That's a good scene, yeah.
A turning point there.
I wonder if did I misunderstand that fan question? I thought we were supposed to say like the most like meaningful thing in our lives.
I don't know.
But I mean, I think I can speak for everyone. Like the best moment in Star Wars is the opera
depends.
scene. Yeah, the opera scene is like maybe the best scene of the entire saga because it is perfect, and it's like the best executed scene. At least Hayden's. Anyways, that's what we think. What do you think? If you haven't already, smash that thumbs up button. It's episode 57. We were live. So glad that you were able to join us in this moment. We rotated our set, got a new camera. We got 2 more over here that we got to hook up for next time.
And we don't have to take the set down every week, right?
The set is here to stay for good as long as we're in this residence. So just so thankful that we were able to hang out today and get together and have the Star Wars conversation. Do want to say, though, if you haven't already, do smash that thumbs up button because you should. That's a good thing to do. If this is your first time checking out Beyond the Blast Doors, though, welcome. And be sure you hit the subscribe button.
And hit the bell.
Because that way when we go live or drop new videos, or like we have like Beyond the Panel, you're the first to know when all that happens if you ring the bell and subscribe. And again, thumbs up because that just helps us. Want to give a shout out. I don't know about you guys. I think at the height, I saw like 16 or 18 people watching live, which is just really exciting because our first live show, we had 5 people watching. And now here we are kind of closing in on 20. We're getting like 17, 23 thumbs up after the end of each episode. So it's fun to see that more and more people are learning about our live Star Wars conversation. It's happening here on Sundays, and it's really great that people get to participate in that. And I think David does a great job moderating the chat. I mean, I'm going to give you a round of applause. Good job. We're happy. This was
shucks.
That was like I need to get an applause button too. So when we do trivia again, we can have like applause erupt. Because I'm pretty sure like you guys got a question correct, and then I just was like silent. I wasn't a very good cheerleader. I'm sorry.
That's right.
I think we still have one final question, if I recall.
Well,
right?
because
we're gonna hold that till next
we're gonna
week.
hold that till next time because of time.
Oh no.
Oh, sorry, buddy. We ran out of time. Episode 57 of Beyond the Blasters. If you haven't, don't go anywhere. We're gonna end the stream. And then you're going to come back and comment because you have to tell us what you thought about the show, your favorite topic, and why. Or at the very least, you just have to comment, size matters not, so that way you can enter in our 800 subscriber giveaway. Thank you so much for being a part of our Star Wars conversation. It has been an absolute thrill. May the Force be with you. We'll see you next week on Beyond the Blast Doors and, of course, episode 5 of Beyond the Panel this Thursday at 6 p.m. Central. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.